Welcome back, everyone, to Mindful Leadership Beyond Borders. And our guest today is farmer Heath Emerson from California. And we've been having a wonderful discussion on the benefits of growing and eating organic fruits, vegetables, and grains, yeah, and legumes, not meats, but we're talking organic fruits, vegetables, and grains, a much healthier diet. So Heath, I'm a very dedicated farmer, organic farmer. We have a small little yard here, but we have our own vegetable garden, and we have strawberries and black raspberries and one bush of blueberries and so on. And I only learned last year how to use a cover crop. So every year now I'm planting fall rye, and then so this year I was amazed what happened. So I planted the seeds, and because we live in a mild climate, it's not as mild as California, but it's temperate. I planted it in October, November, and by February, March, it was quite tall. And I couldn't believe the crop we got from our vegetable garden. It was like we had turnips ready in June, which was unheard of, and they're big. They're really big. So anyway, I'm sold on what we're about to talk about, and I thank you for allowing us to learn from you. So in a moment, I'd like to have a discussion on what is a complete organic fertilizer. I notice on your website you've got this long list. And by the way, folks, Heath's website is vegangrow.net. Please go there, and you can see all of his various fertilizers, healthy fertilizers that have got things like neem seed oil, mustard seed, alfalfa meal, soybean meal, all those wonderful things that we should be putting into our soil versus synthetic chemicals. Yeah. This is for our own body's sake, for our mind, body, and spirit. We need to eat organic. So Heath, why do we need to remineralize our soils? I know this might seem like a silly question, but tell us.
No, it's not silly at all. And one reason is why it is, especially if you live in places that get rainfall, what's happening is that over time, as we grow food, or even if people inherit a piece of land that maybe was mowed or whatever, all of those plants in some way are taking minerals out of the ground, and we're either consuming them or we are shipping them away in terms of grass clippings. Now, if you're conscious of that and you're keeping that stuff on your land, good for you. However, we can't know for sure historically what happened to our land over the last several hundred years. And so what once might have been very fertile land is most likely not that fertile anymore. And like I mentioned, places with high rainfall, I do know, like in the Pacific Northwest, those soils do not have lots of calcium usually. And even in places like where I'm at, California, where we don't get a lot of rainfall, it's about 6 inches a year. I'm kind of artificially making it rain, right? Because I'm always irrigating. And minerals don't just stay in place in the soil. There's certain minerals like calcium and potassium that will actually flow freely out of your topsoil down deeper and away. So there are those major minerals like potassium and calcium. Those are what we call the macronutrients that plants need lots of. And then there are micronutrients too, like boron, molybdenum, cobalt, copper. Plants don't need a whole lot of those, but they do need them. And it's most likely that those are no longer present in most people's soil. And the way that the earth would replenish soils is through volcanic eruptions. And so one of the things that I add into my complete vegan fertilizer, which is Vegan Grow, is basalt rock dust. So basalt comes from volcanic rocks, and they're ground into very small particles, almost like it's like powder. And it has the whole spectrum of elements on the periodic table
Wow.
in in various forms. Like the salt is very high in silicon, which is very good for plant growth, but it has very small amounts of other things like molybdenum, boron. And so when you add those to your soil, you're giving your plants everything that it possibly would need to do higher photosynthesis. And we know now that plants need, for sure, 20 different elements, but I bet you here in a few years, science is going to find that they need much more. Um, so it's basically just insurance that we're giving our plants everything they might need to do all those higher orders that plants have figured out how to do. The other thing is that when we add rock dust to the soil, when it rains, some CO2 in the atmosphere gets collected by rainwater. And when it hits the rock, the volcanic rock, especially in the soil, it forms carbonates. It does a little reaction in soil. Those carbonates become long-term stable carbon. And so it actually is taking carbon out of the air and putting it back in the soil where it belongs. So every time we do that, we're having a positive impact on climate change. We're taking a little bit of carbon out of the air and
Right.
putting it into the ground. Now, obviously, we need to do widespread remineralization on our farmlands, but that's why I include it in my fertilizer, so that if someone gets it, they're going to be doing their part. So I always advocate to people to use the salt rock dust. I add in for good measure to mine the salt. I add glacial rock dust because glaciers have done the same thing over time. They've collected minerals. And I use a product called azomite, which is another volcanic ash that's in Utah. So it's really just, about making our soil complete again with all of the major and micronutrients that plants need. We're not just adding NPK, nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, like most synthetic fertilizers do. We're adding the whole spectrum. It's like a multivitamin.
Wow, that's so cool.
Yeah.
And I noticed on your website that your fertilizers have got at least 15 different components, right?
Yeah.
So when you say multivitamin, I can relate to that. I was just so impressed. Um, now, you probably only ship in the US, right? It's probably quite heavy. Do you ship outside the US, or do you have distributors in other countries, or what? How do you do that?
So right now it's just me. So I am I can ship to Canada, but I haven't looked into it too much yet because we're still pretty young company.
Yeah, yeah.
But my goal is to ship it worldwide, and it's my other goal with it is that, especially for people that are vegan or want to avoid synthetics and animal byproducts, my goal is to offer like the best thing on the market worldwide. And the reason I believe that is because, for one, we're a solely vegan organic fertilizer. We don't sell animal products on the side. And there are vegan fertilizers on the market, but they're coming from companies that sell animal products too.
Okay.
And I stand alone in promoting, only vegan products. And
Awesome.
I'm also open to it changing. If I find something that comes on the market that's, that should be added to it, it's going to get added to it. So it's going to be, it's going to be a product that will be open to improvement over time.
So, and of course, you could also teach people in other countries, how to do it
Yeah.
themselves. You could have distributors in other countries that they could make it based on your formula, that sort of idea. My business had taking off here.
Yeah.
But the one question I have for you is, all of us know here the importance of eating a plant-based diet, and really truly eating organic fruits, vegetables, grains, legumes, and so on. And but somehow, animal agriculture has taken over the world. Still does. I mean, in Raj's country, for example, India actually raises the cows for Saudi Arabia and those Middle Eastern countries, and they kill them in India and then send the meat back to the Middle East. And so there is that in itself is sad that has to happen. And we know, for example, that people need to eat. So all these farmers and people creating, fertilizers from animal products, they're feeding their families. However, we know there's a better way. There's a better way to support the health of humans, prevent the massacre of, billions of animals every day. And so how can we stop giving animal agriculture ways to profit? Like, that's a big loaded question. And how can we get them to turn around from killing all these animals and harming all these animals with all these chemicals and hormones and so on? How do we encourage them to treat these animals with respect and also treat humans with respect? How do we do that?
Well, I think the first step is definitely to go fully vegan, fully plant-based, and that's in what we eat and, even the materials that we use. So, for example, I needed new boots, so I got some new boots, and they're fully vegan. And
me too.
they're nice. They look just like leather, but they're not leather.
Yeah.
And so I'm putting my money where my mouth is and saying I don't want vegan boots. I want some high quality. I want vegan boots. I don't want leather boots.
Right.
So doing that, and then once people get that down and that just becomes normalized, then we can look at when we are eating organic food, for example, most organic produce is heavily reliant on animal byproducts or animal manures, stuff like blood meal, bone meal, feather meal. I've used those in the past, and I've I've thankfully gotten away from it. But I think it takes industry leaders, to find new alternatives, and there's lots of new things coming out. For the longest time, you mentioned the strawberries being sprayed with
Enzymes or something.
fish enzymes. Yeah. So organic has been very reliant on fish emulsion. So it's just ground up fish, and we have no idea how dire the ocean situation is.
Oh, yeah.
And we really need to not use any fish products, or I'm against using, crab meal, oyster meal, all those different things. But um, fish emulsion, fish hydrolysate, as a fertilizer is incredible for plants because it has amino acids, enzymes, all these different things, but it's destroying the fish or the ocean ecosystems. It's a
Yes, it is.
byproduct, but they make lots of money from it. And thankfully, soy protein hydrolysate has come on the market in the last decade, and it does the same exact thing as fish enzymes, but it's
Ah,
made from soy.
right.
And there are other products coming on, like stuff from the corn byproduct industry. So I am just looking at, how we use byproducts in agriculture from animals. Where can we start looking to use them from plants?
Right.
And
Exactly. Yeah.
I think, there are going to be more and more companies like mine that come on and offer people products to not use animal uh,
Yeah.
or
Right.
synthetic
Yeah.
chemicals anymore. So I think, I'm all about going the business route, and making good money doing good things.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's going to be a big way, and just takes more consumers to recognize that,
Yeah.
there's still a lot of work to be done. Um, Even if we're eating organic, healthy food, if we want to really propel veganism to the next level, that we've got to uncover some of these sectors and change them radically.
That's absolutely. And as we're um, closing our segment here, definitely a big thing that would help this whole organic fruits, vegetables, grains, legumes industry to move forward would be for government subsidizing, to take subsidies away from, all those farmers, animal agriculture farmers who are getting subsidies. The government can give them subsidies now to grow organic fruits, vegetables, and grains. I mean, it's a no-brainer, right, for the
Yeah,
government to do that. So
yeah,
let's send out those positive vibes that can happen in the next little while. Yeah.
yeah. And especially if you have any viewers in the United States, our farm bill is uh, coming up, and if anyone wants to reach out to the representatives, um, that should go in the farm bill. Is that, let's end these subsidies for
Mm-hmm.
these industries, and
Mm-hmm.
let's subsidize some new ones that are actually going
Yeah.
to
Be
make
healthier.
positive changes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right on. Well, Heath Emerson, you've been a joy. I thank you so much for being here with us today. Such a great, it's a topic that touches my heart, and I want our daughter to benefit from this. I want our grandchildren to benefit from what you're doing. So may God bless you with
Thank you.
everything that you do and expand your business in a healthy way. Thank you for being
Thank
here.
you so much. Thank you both for having me.